welcome to a Trucking Podcast. My name is Sebastian.
My name's Jose, guys.
Today we're going to talk about a couple of things. I-shifts, issues with I-shifts, overheating, and buying trucks.
And staying healthy on the road.
And staying healthy on the road, too. That's a good one. Alright, so we want to start with, we got a few questions we wanted to address. Do you want to talk about, this is a podcast, first one in a while, and we've mentioned that in a previous video. I don't think we've mentioned it in the podcast that we've been extremely busy. So we
Shorthanded. Well, I wouldn't say shorthanded. I guess tech-wise, we're like loaded with mechanics.
Tech-wise, right now, yes, but that was not the case when we were swamped with work. That's why we also stopped recording, because we did have a lot of work that we couldn't we could handle it. It was just taking a lot of time for us to actually plow through all the projects that were coming in, and ultimately I hired more techs than we got out of it. So we're now we're at a different crossroads, meaning inventory and managing all that, which is also time consuming, but good things obviously for us to be very busy. We are putting in a lot of hours, and now you want to talk about where we're going right now?
Yeah, right now we're on our way to check out what 5 D13s.
Yes.
They're 15s and 14s, I believe, right? Or some 16.
Yes, some 16, 14, 15, 16. We bought from them before, so we're looking at more. And the main reason is we're swapping some units, and it's also hard to find trucks right now. So I wanted to capitalize on the fact that the guy reached out to me, and I appreciate that. He was like, hey, I have some coming in, but they're going to go fast. Do you want to look at them? And yeah, we're going to go check them out. So we'll keep you posted on that. Well, let's dig into the questions and what we want to talk about today. We have some questions that you guys sent over. We will talk about, and you ready? What do you got?
Yeah, so first was an email. That was from Kareem, I believe. So he says, I am an owner-operator that hires drivers to work for me. I watch your YouTube channel all the time and think you provide great content. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing your knowledge. Okay. I have a few questions. So I purchased a 2007 D12 automatic 358 ratio. Mileage is at 680. Paid really good price for it. For the miles, 13.7.
That's nice. That's very nice.
What things should I look at and or repair? I plan on hauling reefer, drive in, OTR with the truck. Driving around 2,500 to 3,300 miles a week, or hauling drive in reefer 15 to 2,800 miles per week. At that mileage, I would
just verify. Well, let's assume it's
ECM mileage.
ECM mileage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Air
Well, that's a
compressor.
very low mileage for a D12.
Yeah.
So you got a really good truck, bro. I would say make sure that's the mileage. And if the ECM mileage is that low, then wow.
Well, like the one that you bought last year, it was up with that low mileage, 600 mile range.
Yeah, but the rusted.
It rusted out. Yeah.
Well, the other one I did was 740. We've had it for 2 years, the green one, and it's running perfectly. And we, all we do is maintenance on it.
All right, so we both say it's a green one, and then Rafa and everybody else are like, that's a blue one. They're always getting confused.
They don't see colors there, or we don't see colors maybe. But okay, so let's get back to him. And that's a good purchase. I would say the number one thing is overhead.
Overhead, for sure. We know how those D12s, the air compressors, like to build pressure in the system, or just fail.
Yeah.
Stop building
If
air.
it has a green air compressor, I would just swap it.
I would just swap it. Very inexpensive thing to purchase, and it's gonna break down. It's gonna avoid any breakdowns for sure.
So let's talk about that for a second. So what else though? The air compressor builds up air, but do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yes. So what fails on those air compressors, any air compressor, is there's a head gasket. There's a head and there's a pistons inside. which build the air. That head gasket will fail just like on your diesel engine, and it will start pressurizing into the cooling system. So sometimes that can be misdiagnosed or confused with like you have a bad cylinder head, injector cups, etc. You can build pressure from an air compressor.
Yeah, we've seen that quite a lot on our trucks.
Plenty of times, yeah.
And now switching to D13, you know, those compressors I feel like are a lot more. Obviously,
Very
lower
rarely,
mileage, but
yeah.
rarely they go up.
Yeah.
There are other issues with building pressure in the D13, but with D12, it's certainly something to look
Yeah.
for. What else? What else do you think you should do?
At that mileage, I would do
check the kingpins,
yeah, suspension,
things like that. Yeah.
Leaf springs, check if they need to be addressed, like bushings.
Yeah. But the overhead is the main thing. I would try to not that we've done it a lot on D12s, but I would just maybe check the oil sample, run it for a little bit, and see what's going on. You know.
Yeah.
If you don't know the story of the truck or who owned it, look at the rust. That's the number one thing. Look at the rails on the under the
frame
cab.
rails, yeah.
Because that's where we've seen a lot of issues. Is the cab mounts on the back side of the sleeper.
Yeah, they rust out, or right by the airbag.
The rail, yeah, by the airbag. Check. Oh, that's a good one.
That's what I would do as well. The airbag.
Yeah, and
since
the shocks.
It's 2007. You know, they're dry rotted. Who knows how many airbags have been replaced? They're also inexpensive to replace all four.
And you're gonna feel it driving it. If you're doing OTR, then definitely that's gonna feel a lot better. Anything else? You know,
belts,
typical stuff. The tensioners. It's something that should be probably addressed if it hasn't been. Again,
coolant. I would change the coolant on it. You don't know when the last time the coolant was replaced.
All fluids. I would just swap it immediately. Yeah. And did he mention what transmission it was?
He said it's an automatic, so it's going to be a Fuller.
Okay.
Unless the I-shift came out in 07.
I know. It would be the Y-shift. But okay, what's next?
Next is going to be another question from Stick. This is a question from Stick and Clutch. What are some things a driver can do to prevent a diesel engine from overheating? It's a really common issue in the summer, so I would say you're driving through, like, you got all these mosquitoes on the road. Make sure the bug screen is cleaned out, the radiator is blown out, no restriction up in the front.
Well, address the coolant too, right?
Yeah.
Check the imbalance. If you have imbalance, how long have you been adding water? Just make sure the coolant's right. That's one thing, but I would say
fan clutch. Make sure your fan clutch is working properly.
Yeah.
You have no air leaks on it. Also, if you have a automatic switch, manual switch, make sure that's working properly if you're doing a lot of hills.
Or just put in a manual switch.
Put in a manual switch.
That's going to help. But restrictions in any type of, anything around radiator or thermostat, we've seen some
thermostat. Yeah,
we've seen some
water
issues.
failures.
Yeah. I would even go further and say, okay, what have we seen lately? Because you're putting an engine in risk, obviously overheating it. What are some of the things that you can do? And I've been trying to think about what we've done recently is depressurizing the system when you're leaking somewhere.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Also, there's another thing that he can do to prevent overheating. Obviously, another way to overheat is if you blow a coolant hose. So take a look at the condition of the hose.
True.
Replace what needs to be replaced.
And especially if you had oil if you were mixing before, that oil is going to start
softening up the
hoses. So definitely something to swap.
And definitely don't just focus on the engine side. You can. A lot of times they have fuel heaters, transmission coolers. So you got these coolant hoses running towards the back of the truck. So you got to focus on the whole truck.
Heating the tanks. That's what I've seen a lot. If you have the heating if you see the hoses going back to the tanks, that means it's there for heating the tanks, and that's where we've seen issues, especially with the D12s.
Yeah, the
With
pipes
the
rust out,
older trucks, the pipes rust out, the hoses are being, you forget about
rubbed
them.
against frames.
Yeah,
Whatnot.
and all of a sudden you're losing all the coolant and you're in trouble. But, yeah, okay, that's a good one. What else?
Next question is going to be.
So that's, yeah. We have an I-shift question, I think, about how
That
long.
is- okay. So this is from, it's hard to pronounce, from Art. I'm going to abbreviate it. So I release. So he's having issues with his transmission. So I guess when he's in neutral and he's going to select the reverse, he gives it throttle and it's not responding until he lets off the throttle, but it just rolls forward from what I'm reading.
Yeah, it was so I think autocorrect made some mistakes there, or whatever he was writing with. So what?
And it happens forward sometimes too. So when he's trying to go into drive, it's doing the same thing.
So is there no response?
No response. It just, or I guess it lags on response, a little bit slower.
Okay. We don't know the mileage. That's the number one thing.
Mileage, clutch control actuator that could be acting up. Since he says that once it starts working once he lets off the throttle, I'm thinking something with the throttle position sensor or the wiring.
Well, the throttle.
Some data link issue going on.
Yeah. We've had that before when you swap out the throttle. That acts up. But I wish we knew the mileage on that. But that's a couple things to look at, and then.
Other than that, it being slow, I mean, I could say probably something on top of the I-shift, the gear selector, so the top cover.
Yeah.
One of the cylinders is possibly leaking air, or it's taking a little too long to engage.
Yeah. Make sure you check your electrical and make sure you check your air leaks. That's those
air
two
leaks,
most important things you got to address with an I-shift. If your batteries are bad, if you're not holding charge, then just they have to be operating properly. That's where you're going to cause most issues with I-shifts, is if your batteries, your electrical connections, and especially now in winter, we've seen a lot of upticks in electrical issues and batteries all of a sudden dying because you think you just bought the battery last year, but it's garbage for $60, and then now it's not holding charge and it's not working properly. So saving on the batteries, and we've went through that recently, is also a lesson learned. Get a better battery, especially when you have I-shift, when you have an I-shift on your truck.
I-shift, or you got like a power inverter, accessories on the truck,
because it is greatly impacting how the transmission is operating. So,
especially you need some good batteries for winter's coming around the corner. So for the cold cranking, cold starts, you're gonna need a good battery.
Yeah. What would you say the cold cranking amps should be? The CCA rating. What should
I would say
look at?
700 enough for sure.
Is enough? Do you think it's enough?
I believe so.
I think 1,000 would be good for. Volvos don't have problems with starting. That's the thing. It depends on what truck.
Those Series 60s are hard to turn
Very
over in
hard.
the cold.
Yeah. So I would say maybe with an older truck model, go a little higher.
Yeah.
We've seen 700 for our Volvos as enough. For I-shifts, I would say 1,000. I've decided to put better batteries. I see like the cheaper ones we were putting in, they just last a year.
If
that, and then they should last at least 2 years. I feel like.
Yeah.
A good battery.
Good battery usually get 2 years for sure.
Okay. Same question around I-shift. You had from somebody. Do you know the question? How long? What's the life expectancy of an I-shift?
I would say it varies. 700,000 you can get. We had a customer that had theirs replaced like at 400, I believe.
Well, so if let's say the maintenance was done properly, right? Because it all depends on the maintenance. If it was fleet maintained, And we just had a comment from somebody that I wanted to mention is just keep checking your oil level. Just look at that window.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it was properly maintained, then it does have a long life cycle. I would say even well over $1 million.
How about that guy, that customer that recently just came by with
Yeah.
his I-shift that just went to crap?
Yeah, and that's something that maybe you can elaborate a little bit on. But that's the number one issue is proper maintenance and how cooling and other things impact the
Your
life
trans,
of the component or the transmission in this case, right? You want to talk about what happened there?
Yeah, so we had a customer, he had a D13, like 2012, I believe, 900,000 miles on it. He hasn't done any work. Well, he did the synchro on the transmission 2 months prior to this complaint that he has right now, which is grinding every gear basically. Nothing crazy, but the grind is there. He did mention that what was it? His radiator was,
Yeah.
or something. I caught something, and I asked him if the radiator was swapped over, and he said it was. So I asked him, all right, let's take a look at your transmission oil. We'll pull out the filter, see how that comes out. Sure enough, pulling out the filter, and a bunch of coolant just came out. So that failure from that radiator basically cost him a new transmission. Well, caused his transmission to fail. Improper lubrication going on in the transmission, and that's gonna be on the shop side, I guess. Whoever took care of him last, they didn't bother checking the transmission because of the whole fluid mixture going on right there. So that's why you guys gotta have a good shop that's willing to go that extra mile and make sure that your truck's gonna be 100%.
Yeah, and it might be a little bit more expensive, but it's well worth it because now you don't have to replace. And then ultimately, you can have a very good truck, and you just kill that I-shift, and then you end up with a $50,000
Big bill,
ish bill just for the trans. And but you could save that and then not have that issue. Obviously, with a shop that would not do a mistake like that.
He was very disappointed. He's like, I clearly told the guy to check the trans oil, put a filter in there, etc. And once I showed him, the guy was just really disappointed.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What do you got over there? I think we have a few come.
Next one's gonna be for you because you drove. So
Okay.
How did you stay healthy on the road?
Oh yeah. Do you have the name of what the name came from?
That was.
Oh, it was on
Just
the
Me.
video. It was from Just Me. It was on the video about when we did with Tommy as an own operator. Somebody mentioned he's fit, and how do you stay fit behind a wheel? And I can tell you, it's staying fit in general. Whether you're not driving is hard. So when you're behind a wheel, it really, to me, I feel that it's like 10x harder because now you have to think about meals, food, and what do you eat, what do you put in yourself. And it's very easy when you sit for 10 hours a day or more
Just to grab a snack.
just to grab whatever because you feel a little bit hungry, right? So for me, I couldn't tell you, like right now, I am very, it's a different perspective than what I've had before. I always ate healthy. So I would say this: if you're eating healthy and you create healthy habits, it's going to help you to stay healthy behind a wheel. But if you're actually just eating whatever, you're not thinking about eating and just grabbing anything that's coming up the next exit, and that's going to be, that will not, you'll have the outcomes that it's not going to, you're not going to be healthy. That's what I'm trying to say. Because how to stay healthy is prep your meals, make sure you buy and cook things at home and take it with you. If you're doing OTR, it's a little harder. You have to have a fridge, but it's a common thing in OTR truck drivers, and I'm speaking from experience, looking at the area and the group of drivers that I know. Like everybody's making their own meals. They have big fridges in the truck, and they just eat and cook at, when they're driving. It's very hard to find good restaurants when you're driving. So ultimately, cook your own food. Make sure you learn about nutrition and food, and just do it yourself. Not only a lot cheaper, but also healthier, and just don't eat anything. Like I said, replace snacks and carbs with fruit. Like I just had a lot of fruit with me. Um, so and then workout. Like workout routines in general are hard, and I've always wanted to have either my trainer friends to come out and talk about it, but it's just establishing some kind of a rhythm and a habit of movement, right? Like I told you, I think before in the podcast, when I was eating in between, when I was taking my 30-minute break, when I was eating, I would be walking. I wouldn't be sitting when I was driving. I was moving all the time, right? So the same kind of mentality, like park far, go, make sure you walk, stop, go to rest areas and walk as much as you can when you eat, snack, or talk on the phone versus sitting. Right? Replace the sitting time. Do all the sitting when you're driving, and then move all the time. Is what I actually did. Right? Like I didn't mind walking further. I didn't mind walking back and forth to the truck, and if I forgot something. So it's just creating that habit, that helps you stay a little more healthy.
Not only that, but I guess obviously eating fat foods or fast food is going to make you feel more fatigued, more tired than obviously healthier foods, right? Like for the long drives.
Yeah, and also that's one thing, but look into alternative ways. Intermittent fasting, it's something that I've practiced and it's worked for me. It doesn't work for some people, but it's definitely worth looking into, because now you're just creating a window in which you eat, and it helps you. I stayed sharper, and I still do it sometimes, and it just things like that will definitely help you. There are a lot of information out there on YouTube and how to stay healthy and how to do. So just learn and try to practice, see what works for you. Sometimes drastic changes obviously will not work. I know people that would never do intermittent fasting and then they would do it like hardcore and like, oh, this is not from like, no, you have to ease it in. You have to, take it easy on if you're implementing something like that. So your body is freaking out when you're doing things like that. So yeah, just habits. It's all about habits. Don't smoke cigarettes. Anything else? I think that's it.
I think that's pretty much it, dude. Yeah.
We had a few good questions. We are going to look into live podcasting. That's going to come out soon. We are building the studio. While I'm hoping to get it started, because the weather is nice again, and the guys that work outside will not go inside until the weather is bad. So because they're framing houses, so they want to
makes sense.
They want to work outside as long as they can. So we're gonna see how that's gonna go. But we'll definitely have some reach out on our YouTube channel, post questions either under videos or
email
in the community section, and email them to us as well, because my email was down for a little bit and now everything is fixed, so you guys can email us questions, and that's it. Subscribe if you haven't, share.